morning, everybody. My name's Will Whitney from BMI Imaging Systems, and you see that Jake Walker was the original webinar presenter that we did on the live webinar last week. We did have some audio issues due to the overwhelming response of how many people were watching our webinar, and we think it may also have to do with just how many people are using remote web services with the coronavirus these days. So because of those audio issues, we wanted to provide you a clean copy of the webinar, and Jake is not able to do a new recording, so I'm doing it for him, but all the information here is Jake's. And I'll get you all of his contact information at the end of the webinar as well. So this is a microfilm and hard copy digitization solutions for libraries webinar. That's a mouthful, but basically it's what can you do with your material such as microfilm and hard copy newspapers to get them digitized. That's what we're going to be going over. So we'll go through a quick introduction, a couple digitization solutions and some obstacles, and then a fairly brief demo of one of those digital solutions, which is Digital Reel, an application that we provide to a vast majority of our library and archives customers. So BMI, we've been around since 1958. We started out creating microfilm for land record agencies and government agencies, so we're very familiar with microfilm. We actually had a branch of our operations called Library Microfilms back in the day, where we were creating microfilm for libraries across the country on a subscription model. So we're very familiar with microfilm, especially library microfilm. In the 80s, 90s, we switched over to the digital processes along with much of the rest of the world. We are based in Silicon Valley, so we're right in the middle of tech world, so it was a fairly simple transition for us because everyone else was doing it as well. So back a couple decades ago, we started doing more digital. So microfilm we had actually created. We also started scanning, and we, of course, have been doing paper scanning as well, including newspapers. Some other services include legacy data conversion. So born digital images, such as maybe something a publisher creates in a digital format, we can migrate those to various systems. Or if you already have, let's say, your newspaper scanned, but you want to get it into a new application, we can assist with that as well. We have two facilities, one in Sunnyvale, California. That's the one in Silicon Valley. That's our headquarters where all microfilm scanning is done, where we have our admin team and software team and project managers. And then we have an office in Sacramento that is centered around large volume paper scanning projects. We do have clients across the country in the libraries and archives area. So almost every state we have a client. I'm not going to speak to the specifics because this is Jake's area of expertise. So if you're curious about which clients are where, he'd be the best one to talk to, and you can get in touch with them whenever you feel like. We're also an exhibitor at the ALA and many regional conferences. This year will be interesting. Jake actually goes to about half the shows of our entire sales team every year, and in April, 2 of his for a different vertical that he covers. 2 of them are already canceled. We're curious to see how that works out for the rest of the year, especially with some of the shows in June. I think ALA is in June, so we'll see how that works. But we do normally attend, or Jake does usually attend, the national and the regional conferences in the library trade show area. All right, a couple digitization solutions. There's what we call a traditional conversion, which is basically creating TIFFs, JPEGs, PDFs. That's probably what most of you are familiar with when you think about a scanning project is, okay, I'm going to get some PDFs. So what you get from that is one of those file formats, depending on what you want. And the indexing, so how the files are organized, will probably be by issue date. So if you have let's say a roll of microfilm with a couple years of a title on that roll, you'd probably get it organized into issue date PDF. So maybe, let's say there are 10 issues a year, and you have, or let's say it's a weekly. You have 52 issues a year, and you have 2 years on a roll, so you have about 104 issues. You'd get 104 PDFs named by that issue date. They are static images in the sense of if I give you a grayscale PDF, that's what you're getting. So there's not much adjustability once you receive that file. In contrast to this is our digital reel conversion solution, which is it's a hosted application that you're accessing. You're accessing a platform basically to get to your images and data. So overall, it's a digital solution where you're accessing our application to get to your information, but you also have the ability to have that traditional file as a backup. So what's the difference? Well, with Digital Reel, you get a global text search database, so you can search your entire collection of whatever's in Digital Reel from a single point. You have the ability to enhance images. You can do date searching, name searching, title searching, whatever type of searching you like via the index. And you can also export images from the application. So let's say you go with a Digital Reel solution. You have 100 roles or so in our application, and you didn't want the backup PDFs. That's fine, because from Digital Reel you can export PDFs, JPEGs, TIFFs as well. You can scroll through records like a reader printer, which I'm assuming most of you are familiar with. So that's one of the major positives for libraries and archives, that you're familiar with microfilm and reader printers. So imagine holding up a roll of microfilm in front of you. That's what it looks like on screen, just like you're used to on a reader printer, except now that it's digital, you don't have to worry about handling the physical material or the physical machine or maintenance or whatever the obstacles for that are. You're just dealing with the digital image, but it's familiar, especially to library patrons. They're familiar with that as well. Digital Reel is customizable, so we can make it look like your website. I'll show you an example of that later on. And it is hosted. We do have an on-premise version, very rarely used these days. When this was first created about 12, 13 years ago, most agencies we were working with, including libraries, wanted everything on-site. That all started to change about 2013, 14, 15 timeframe, when the cloud became much more preferable and much more secure. So very few library clients have an on-premise solution. I'm actually not sure of any myself. That would be a good question for Jake. But to my knowledge, I don't even know if we have any library clients on the on-site version, because of the ongoing maintenance and support you would need to upgrade it and keep it going. Hosting, much easier. So the vast majority of our clients are on the hosted version of this. Some obstacles to scanning. Well, the number one that we at least usually get asked is about the price. So projects can be pricey depending on what you want to do. Why? Usually the indexing portion of that. The scanning is scanning as long as your film or newspapers are clean, they're quote unquote normal. Scanning's not really the issue. It's usually the back end, the indexing, that gets complicated. So that can be where the price jumps. Also, if you have a very large project, of course, the more you have, you might get better unit pricing, but it's still going to be a probably sizable amount of money to pay for a large project. We do have flexible payment options. We have clients that sometimes do a project, let's just throw out a number, it's a $60,000 project. They pay over 3 years or so. So it doesn't have to necessarily be lump sum. We're able to work with our clients in your particular situation, whatever that is. We can work with you to make something happen. Other obstacles, especially with newspapers, is the copyright issue. I'm not completely familiar with all this because this isn't my area of expertise, but there are some public domain and fair use applications in the sense of what you can do with certain material. There's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and then there's also publisher permission. So we cannot give you legal advice. We don't want you to take this as legal advice. We can just sort of say what we know or recommend ideas, but we always like to recommend to our clients, go to your organization to get the answer from any legal team or director, whoever would make that decision about what you can do. Some examples of what our clients do are one that I'll show you coming up. They actually got publisher permission to put all the content that they had on microfilm, as well as some hard copy newspapers that were scanned and some PDFs going forward. They got publisher permission to put everything online, accessible to the public from wherever you are. So they just said, we're going to ask the publisher. Publisher said, green light, go for it. Everything's online. Other clients we have, they had their, it's a public library locally here. They had their city attorney say, we can put I believe 1964 And backward, that's out of copyright. We'll put that online. Everything else, it's on our website, but it's only accessible from within our building, just like the physical material would be. So they're making that delineation of, at this point in time, you have to be inside the library to look at these rolls or these images. Everything else can be accessible from all over the world. So those are just a couple quick examples. Another obstacle is the volume. So how many rolls do you have if it's microfilm? How many pages if it's newspaper? And then what's the timeline? So maybe you don't have funding right now, or you only have funds for a certain, maybe a couple months left to use. You want to use them. What's the timeline for your project? Those are some general obstacles that you might see when you're looking at a digital conversion project. Another big obstacle, deterioration. Here are some images that might give you nightmares about microfilm if you have some. Microfilm does go bad. It has a very long lifespan. If you keep it stored well, it can be up to 500 years, but not everyone has it stored on our website. We have a link that actually says how Kodak, who used to make microfilm, how they believe it should be stored. I know that a lot of libraries just have them in cabinets out on in the public use area, maybe just in a drawer somewhere. It's not necessarily humidity controlled, light controlled, away from any chemicals if there's painting being done, all that stuff. It's just out for the public to use. People are grabbing it all the time. So these are some extreme examples of material of a microfilm that has gone bad. We've actually seen some like this. One of our clients had about, it wasn't a library, but it was a law enforcement agency, and I think they had about, let's say, 1,500 rolls or so. And we actually couldn't even scan the last, I think, couple, maybe 100 or so, because they were just so bad. Like this image on the left, the microfilm was just goopy and falling apart. We tried to scan them one at a time in the scanner. We have to clean the scanner after every roll, but some of them just could not be scanned, and that information is gone forever. So keep an eye out for this. If you see your material getting kind of wonky, you might want to talk to someone about either maybe duplicating it if you just want to keep the microfilm and don't want to scan, or talking to a conversion company like us about getting it scanned before it goes too bad. Another big indicator, it's called vinegar syndrome, because if you smell your microfilm and it smells like vinegar, that is a very bad sign. It means some of your film has vinegar syndrome, and you need to get it scanned or duplicated quickly, because vinegar syndrome spreads to other rolls and it can basically ruin the film, and you don't want to wait too long when that information is gone forever. Especially in the libraries and archives world, you're preserving local history. So if you lose that information, it could be gone forever if it's not backed up somewhere else and someone else doesn't have a copy of this material, especially with local newspapers. All right, a couple additional resources. What I'm actually going to do is go back to this page, and now I'm going to show you a quick demo of digital reel using live applications. This isn't a sample set. This will be customer websites that are using digital reel that are open to the public, so you can actually access these too. Let me go here. So I'm at the Napa County, California website. This is one of our customers, and they did a project with us, and they put their material online. They got publisher permission, so they have their entire data set online, open to the public. So you don't have to be at the library. You could do this from wherever you are. So I'm actually in the databases area. So to get there, you'd have to go to the homepage, departments, library, research, databases. We can send links out later, but I'm in the databases area in the newspapers and magazines section, and they have it listed here as Napa County Newspaper Archive. So again, I'm on their website. They hyperlinked to digital reel that we're hosting for them. Click here, and it opens up digital reel. So these are the titles that they have available on microfilm. And what I'm going to do here is, instead of going through all the functions and features, which you may not want to see now, that might be better for a one-on-one demo later, I'm just going to show you a quick use case and a few functionalities, not the entire detailed demo. So here are the titles. Based on what's happening these days, we'll do some macabre humor here and search for something that's somewhat relevant. I'm going to look for West Nile virus. And I'm putting quotes on here because I want to find the exact phrase. The searching is sort of like a, let's say, assuming you all use Google, it's sort of like a Google search. As you start typing, results will start popping up. If you put quotes, it'll search for that phrase with those words specifically in that order, not if it's two of the words are on the top of the page and the other words on the bottom. It'll look for only that actual phrase. Let me give you a quick example. So if I type west, you see west, that many results. As I continue and type Nile, new results, virus. You got 285,000 results with those three words. 285,000. Now let's put quotes around them. 634. So you can see how it's much more specific. And if you're looking at the speeds of this, this is also part of that global text search. There are about 1,200 roles on this data set, and we are searching the entire database. And let's just give an example here. There are about 800 or so, I call it 1,600 pages per roll on 35 millimeter film, 1,200 rolls. So we're looking at about 2 million pages of information, densely packed information since it's newspapers, and you're getting results in less than a second. That's the glory of the global text search that we're using in digital reels. You can find information immediately. So West Nile virus, let's just go to the first one. It shows you a little bit of context here of what that finds, and it looks like it found a few results with that exact phrase. Click that result, and we go to the actual page, and it highlights the results that you were searching for. There you go. And this is what we call the image view, because it's pulling up that actual image. You can go to view film to look at film view, and then you're looking at the actual roll. So this is how digital reel also differs from just like a PDF or something, because you see the context of the material, the content, as it existed before it was scanned. That can be critical sometimes. If I give you let's say 100 PDFs, and I say, yeah, I scanned your 20 rolls, and here are all the PDFs, how will you ever know that all the images were actually captured? Do you know how many, are you counting the images on each roll before you give them to a company to scan and then counting the number of pages on each PDF? Or are you just assuming that it's all there? That's something you may need to worry about, but with digital reel, you're getting 100% capture because you can see it. You can see how it originally existed. So that would be a search example. The reason the global text search is nice is because a lot of times people don't know where the information they're looking for is. They just know what they're looking for. It would be easy if I knew that I'm looking for the West Nile virus on that July 14th issue of 2014. I probably won't know that. I'll just know that I'm looking for something about West Nile. I'm doing some research for, let's say, a school project, or I'm looking at my relative. They're probably not going to know where it is. So you just know what it is, you search, and you go to it, and you see those results, and then you find what you want to look at. But maybe you do know where you want to find something, and there are two ways to get to that. So I will go to a date around my birthday. I don't believe the actual day is on this data set, but let's go. Let's say I want to look in the Napa Valley Register. And this is kind of just a ladder search, as you may want to call it, where you're just clicking through the different layers. So that's the title. Now I'm going to go to the year, 86. And then the month, August. It's not my actual day, but it's around it. I'll go to the 4th. And then I'll go to the first page here, the first section. That's another way to get to the material. If you don't want to look for a specific phrase or person or whatever it is, you can just go to the issue. So when I click that, it'll take me to the first page of that issue. I'm going to click out, and now I'm in the film view. And I'll do one more example of that search. So I'm in the Napa Valley Register. You can see that it says basically start typing something here to find it. Let's see if I can do this right. Let's do August. Let's do 4th, and start. It shows me the available sets here as I keep typing. I'll do 1980. Okay, so August 4th is only available on 83 or 80. Oh, it says 88. Did I click 88? Let's see here. caught something that may have to be updated. And I clicked the wrong result there. My mistake. I'll just go back to it this way. But you get the idea. You start typing, just like a global text search, you start typing the index values. It'll show you what's available that's captured in the system. But let's say I got to this issue, and I'm scrolling around, and I find what I'm looking for. I say, oh, perfect. This is a picture of my mom and her friends back at the old fountain getting a milkshake. I'm not going to look up the whole page. I'm going to take a little cutout here. I say, all right, I want to take this. I want to print out this photo. Or I want to download it. Well, the photo looks a little grainy, and I will explain that. The first layer you see here is black and white TIFF images. The reason we do that is because it's faster to get to. The file sizes are smaller, so it loads quicker. But each of these is also layered with a grayscale JPEG, which allows for the image enhancement. So that's what I'm going to show you. So a bit grainy. It's a black and white image. Okay. But you go to this enhance button up here. Click it. Boom, there's your grayscale. And from here, you can also adjust it. There are a bunch of tools here, but the main adjustments you'll make are brightness and contrast. You can go as bright as you want, as dark as you want, high contrast, and that's pretty much, can't see it right there, low contrast. The reason for that is because everyone's eye is different. Optimizing an image is up to the individual. So I might think this is great, you might think it's horrible. It just all depends. But it allows the user to optimize that image. So I'm going to go, let's do about here. That looks pretty good. A couple good looking ladies having a fountain drink. And a guy over here thinking, when can I talk to them? All right. So here's the grayscale. Let's go back for a little comparison. Black and white original. You can see what's there. It's just not great. Enhanced and adjusted. That's a pretty good looking image. And from here, like we mentioned before, you can export. It's not just stuck in the system. I could download as a TIFF, JPEG, PDF, or PDFA. So right from here, you can download images as well. There are also features like selecting multiple images or strings of issues and whatnot. You can download multi-page files. I'm not going to get into that here. That's for maybe a one-on-one later if you want to talk to Jake about that. But this is just an example of the image enhancement and that you can download it. So that's a pretty down and dirty overview of Digital Reel. Very simple for your users. We make it simple, not a lot of bells and whistles because we want it to be intuitive. We know that for libraries and archives, you usually don't have heavy users that are day in and day out like some of our government agency clients that they're using this. They have the same people using it every day. You have people coming in looking for things, using it once and never coming back. So it needs to be somewhat intuitive for them to be able to do that and you're not spending all your time training them. So it is a very simple tool. Let me go back here. I'm going to skip this slide because we'll include on the follow-up email that includes the recording a couple links to sources. Okay, so here's Jake's contact information. This will also be in the email. I suggest you get in touch with him if you have any questions about your particular project or about this webinar. He'd be happy to set up a one-on-one demo. We also do provide samples, so please don't send your samples here without letting us know. Please talk to Jake first, but this would be where the film scanning is done. We're happy to do samples. It's always better to see your own material in an application than seeing an example of someone else's. It's much more cool when you get to see your own material and goof around with it and see how it works. There are some questions from the original webinar that I'll read out here, and then I will provide some answers for. Do you scan microfiche as well? Yes, we do scan microfiche. Pretty much any type of microform, which is the microfilm, microfiche, aperture cards, we do scan. We actually have a website that shows you all the various types of microfiche and microfilm that is very useful. if you don't know what you have. It shows you all the different types, but pretty much we can scan all of these. So if you have any of them, we can scan them. Can newspapers on microfilm be scanned? Absolutely. That is the vast majority of what we do for libraries and archives is microfilm newspapers that are on microfilm. What are your ongoing costs, and is there an annual fee to host on your server? Yes, there's an annual fee if you are using digital reel. To us, it's relatively low cost compared to some other storage applications out there. Ongoing costs will depend on the number of microfilm rolls or newspaper pages we scan for you and are hosting the system. So I don't really have a number to say it's this. It ranges depending on your project. So if you have a small project, it's not going to be as much as if you have 5,000 rolls and you want 50 users to be accessing it or something like that. Depends on the number of users and the number of the volume of material that we're hosting. Is there a way to see which libraries offer this type of service? Yes, we can include some links in the follow-up email. A couple examples, like you saw here, that's open to the public is the Napa County Library. One of the local ones that's actually in the same city as us is the Sunnyvale Public Library. And I'm actually going to go to that for a second because that is one of the examples that has that dual data set where you can only see certain material inside the library compared to outside the library. So let me bring that up here. Give me a sec. Okay, I have it actually right here. So I dug down to where it's in their database, and what I'm going to go to. So they have the Sunnyvale Historical Newspaper Collection. So you can access this, just it's available online. As they say here, the complete collection isn't available inside the library. So based on what their city told them, the attorneys told them, they said you can keep, if you're inside the library, just like the physical film, you can access everything. If you're not inside the library and we have it locked down by an IP address, you can only look at newspapers prior to 1963. Let's try this. Let's click on the complete collection. I am denied access because I'm not inside the library. IP lock restricts that. Prior to 1963, I have access. So that's something you can do as well. Alrighty, back to here. And then, sorry, I forgot the question. What other libraries offer this service? So there's Napa, there's Sunnyvale, and one that's not in California, as an example, is Belmont Public Library. And you can access their collection down here. So I'll include some links in the email that we follow up with the recording. Other than OCR, is there additional metadata that's included? So generally, the indexing is, let's say you have 100 rolls, we're going to index them by the title of the paper, the year, the month, and the issue. This can be customized. If you notice on the Napa County indexing, they also had page and section. So we can do some customization, but the general indexing is title, year, month, and issue. Do you use Metz Alto? So none of our DR customers that I know of are using Metz Alto. I can't speak too much on this. Again, this is more Jake's area of expertise, but I believe Metz Alto is very detailed down to the article level, lots of metadata, lots of indexing. I believe we can do it. It just becomes expensive. So is the juice worth the squeeze? Do you want to spend all your money doing that, or just getting your stuff digitized and having a simple way to access it, like let's assume digital reel, how we showed you. The customers that have digital reel, it's super easy for their clients to access it. Their patrons, their staff can use it very easily. If you really need Metz Alto, I think we can work on something, but you need to think, what am I getting for the price that I'm paying to do this, and is it going to be as useful as we think it is, or do we just want a simple access, let's say like digital reel, where you find what you're looking for, you can search for things, you can cut out articles, you can print, etc. It just depends how much you want to spend. My knowledge is that Metz Alto can get pretty pricey. Do you scan original hard copy or just the microfilm? Yes, we can scan the original hard copy. An example of that actually is one of my clients, the This was years ago when I had this client. I don't do much in the sales arena anymore, but is Watsonville Public Library, and they also have a online version. Give me a second to find it here. I'm sparing you from watching me doing the searching. Okay, so let me share my screen again here. So I went to their website. Here's Watsonville, and they also have a link here. Search the archives through the historical newspaper archive for Watsonville. Click that. You go to their website, and their titles were not like this. They actually had the Paharonian had many permutations, but my client at the time said, take the titles, simplify them to this. So that's what we did. We put the years here. So this is a little bit of customization for how it usually looks. She wanted the years to be shown so people could say, all right, I want the Paharonian, even though there are many names of it, but I want those years. Okay, great. But 2013 to current is actually for hard copy. And they worked with the publisher to get, I forget what the timeline is exactly, but to allow the material to be on the website after a certain period of time. So you'll see here it goes automatically to a color image. That is because we're scanning straight from the hard copy in color. The microfilm is not in color, it's black and white. So here are all the pages. We lay it out just like the other material in their database. So it's like a film roll, but this is hard copy. So it's in color. Go to an image here. It takes a little longer to load because it is a bigger file because of the color. And there you have your color images, just like the hard copy. Okay. What server is the digital reel located on? My server. And that was two questions if you were curious why I was saying my server. We have two servers. One's in Sunnyvale at the headquarters, and one's at our other office in Sacramento. It's actually a co-location site that's about a block away from our office in Sacramento. So we have two server sites where your data would be stored. It's not on your server. So my favorite Jake analogy is we are like a parking garage for data. Our servers are the parking garage. Your car is your data. So you drive up, you say, I want you to scan this and put it on your website so I can access it. You drive your car up, you park in a parking spot in our garage. At any time, you can take your car and leave. You're not stuck there. We're not putting a boot on your tire or anything like that. It's your data. It is not our data. We are just holding it for you and hosting it. So it's not like we're holding you prisoner or anything like that. You can leave whenever you want. We can you wouldn't be able to access it in digital reel, but we can make PDFs for you, TIFFs, etc., do some indexing, whatnot. We can always get you those digital images if you want to leave. You're not stuck there. So I think that's a great analogy. Where's the parking garage? Your car's parked here. You can take it out whenever you feel like. How does the general public access information from a register such as Napa Valley Register? So we showed a couple websites. You can just go to the website and access them. I'll include some links in the follow-up email. What format is the digital reel? I think I touched on it earlier, but basically it's a layered bitonal TIFF image and a grayscale JPEG image behind it. So you have that ability to adjust images and see the enhanced version, and you can also export it TIFF, PDF, JPEG, PDFA. And then OCR capability, yes, that you have that global searching as well as index searching. So I think I covered everything here. This is the last slide. I will send out a follow-up email so you all have this recording, and Jake's information will be on that, and the links to everything we've talked about. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you have any questions, please get in touch with Jake. He's the expert here. I'm just doing this because he wasn't able to redo the recording after we had those technical issues. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we hear from you soon and get to do some work together. Stay safe and healthy in these interesting times with the coronavirus. All right, everyone. Have a good day.